human condition to question and to seek the truth, with scrutiny of the mind to make sense of that which cannot be explained.
Delving into the abyss of all things supernatural, our mission to find truth and transmit the knowledge of all things convoluted.
These are the Chronicles of the Arcane.
Hey guys, this is Samantha
and Jamie
from Chronicles of the Arcane, and we are back with our second episode. Woo! Number 2.
Party time.
And this episode's going to be a little bit different. We're going to focus on one type of subject here, but we're going to split it up into 2 sections. This episode's going to be about the science behind ghost hunting, so get excited. We're going to split it up between early paranormal research and modern paranormal research. So, here's Jamie.
Despite being rejected by the scientific community, the paranormal phenomenon is part of our everyday lives and has been since the beginning of time. Anymore, it's difficult not to turn on your TV and see one of the many ghost hunting programs or specials on ghosts and the unknown. So regardless if you take it seriously or if you are a hardcore skeptic, the afterlife is a subject of interest and curiosity that dates back to the earliest records of civilization. The Old Testament refers to ghosts as early as 1082 BC, when King Saul calls upon the dead prophet Samuel. And in the New Testament, the Son of God himself, Jesus Christ, was witnessed as a ghost after his death and is still referred to as the Holy Spirit. The Greek poet Homer refers to many ghosts and specters in the Odyssey, and the ancient Egyptians wrote the Book of the Dead, which catalogs the proper rituals of caring for the souls of the departed. Tonight's episode investigates the science of the paranormal and the inventions that help us prove the existence of what mainstream scientists reject.
So we're going to start here with early paranormal research.
And the spiritualist movement flourishing in the 1800s brought about the birth of scientific investigation into the paranormal. Harry Price, born in 1881, began a fascination with magic and the paranormal at the age of 8, and became the forefather for paranormal investigators, and he even wrote the first guidebook on conducting paranormal investigations called The Blue Book.
But not that blue book.
Different blue book.
Yeah.
The Blue Book. A seance or mediumship is defined by the communication between the physical realms and one or more entities in other dimensions. Many of the early forms of seances were exposed as fraud and trickery by the famous magician Harry Houdini, whom stated that it wasn't spiritualism itself that he opposed, but the trickery of phony mediums that was being practiced in the name of religion. After the death of his mother, Houdini became obsessed with mediums and the paranormal in hopes of being able to communicate with his deceased mother. But he found that the mediums were all frauds, and he set out on a crusade to expose them for their trickery, calling them, quote, vultures that prey on the bereaved, unquote.
That's right. Harry Houdini was very opposed to mediums, also other magicians who were just claiming to have supernatural powers. He actually put up a prize for anyone that could prove to him that they had magical powers or could contact the afterlife. Houdini himself was so obsessed with the idea that he promised his wife that once he died, he would try to communicate to her a secret code, that code being Rosabelle Believe, via a seance after his death. She held seances every Halloween for a decade and once actually received the code through the medium Arthur Ford. Unfortunately, it later came out that he had discovered the secret code and the seance was fraudulent, which is unfortunate. And today we typically tend to view seances as fraudulent or a novelty at best. But at the height of spiritualism, they were viewed as very serious business. Prominent seance attendees included Presidents Abraham Lincoln and Franklin D. Roosevelt, as well as physician and author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So very serious men with extremely prominent backgrounds who we still think of today as, being heroes of their time, I guess, believed in seances, which is pretty crazy. And today, even, seances are still practiced. They are practiced through the Church of Spiritualism, although today there is a greater emphasis on spiritual value rather than the showmanship that you would have seen at the height of spiritualism. There's also even a town that was created during the height of spiritualism. If you've ever heard of it, maybe not. It's Cassadaga. If you look it up, it's pretty creepy. The whole town is just full of mediums, and they actually still practice spiritualism there today.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I forgot to write that down, but that's a thing.
We'll have to look that up. Maybe do a podcast on that.
We should go visit Cassadaga.
That's awesome.
I believe it's in Florida. When I was a kid, I used to get Cassadaga and Cassiopeia confused. Because as a child, I had a huge interest in astronomy as well as paranormal.
I can see the connection.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say that, when you die, you go back up into space where your energy lives on as stardust. Because that's where we're all from anyways.
Exactly. We are stardust. Right? I always wanted that tattoo. Let's see. There are several accounts of seances that seem to be genuine. One of the most notable, more modern ones that we will get into a little bit later in the modern paranormal research, but I just want to touch on here because it was an experiment set up as a seance, and that was the skull experiment. And like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it does touch on the seance, so I wanted to bring it up there. A lot of times in seances, especially not necessarily the religious seances, but more casual seances, I guess, they tend to use spirit boards.
Yes, spirit boards, also known as the Ouija board, is a board printed with letters, numbers, and other signs to which a planchette or movable indicator points supposedly an answer to questions from people looking to communicate with the dead. The method of automatic writing used in Ouija boards dates back as early as 1100 AD during the Song Dynasty in China.
Wow.
Long time.
Yeah.
Known as Fuji or planchette writing, it was even used in the writings of several scriptures of the Tao Sing, which consists of 1,400 texts collected by Taoist monks in order to teach the three Taoist divisions of meditation, ritual, and exorcism used to initiate Taoist masters. During the late 19th century, the Ouija board became a household name and was sold to Parker Brothers in 1966 as a toy, and later sold off to Hasbro.
Nice. I didn't know that. There's a movie out now about Ouija boards, and it's a horror movie, so I haven't seen that yet, but it's out now. And a lot of people now especially associate Ouija boards with demonic possession, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It kind of opens up. Everyone involved is more likely to be possessed, I suppose.
I actually have an interesting story about Ouija boards.
I would like to hear it. I'm
well,
sure our listeners would too.
My grandmother, she I didn't know a whole lot about her. She died when I was 4. But when she had died, all these stories surfaced from my family about her claiming to be a witch, or maybe that she wasn't a witch, but her mother was a witch. Apparently, there's some kind of tie-in with witches, and they're from Romania. Mm-hmm, my family has big ties with Romanian ancestry. But she had a Ouija board. And it wasn't like the little, flimsy plyboard, flexi Ouija boards that you find at the stores. This was an actually handmade Ouija board made out of, I forget what kind of wood it was, but we inherited it after she died. When she passed away, we ended up with it, and I was only 4 years old at the time, so I didn't know what it was. It was put away for years. And I stumbled upon it one day, and me and my sister, we had seen the movie Witchboard, which came out a long time ago, and that's how we recognized what it was. I'm like, oh, cool, let's play with that. So we got all of our friends together in the neighborhood, and, we didn't really believe at the time in ghosts and the paranormal. We were just having fun with it. And we were using the planchette, and it started moving, and I swore that it was my sister moving it, and she swore that it was me moving it, and I told her to stop touching it, and we both put our hands up, and the thing started moving by itself. My mother came out. We told my mother about it, and it really freaked her out. She said, why did you get that out? Why are you playing with that? And she came out, and by the time she came out, all the kids in the neighborhood that were there witnessing all this, they were all in a circle around the Ouija board, and their faces were lit up kind of green. And we're like, why is their faces green? And once we got close to the Ouija board, it had a green fire coming out of it.
What?
It had a green fire coming out of it, I swear. It sounds like a very far-fetched, out there story, I know. It's one of my first recollections of something spooky happening to me. First of many. I don't know, maybe that's what started all my tie-ins with the paranormal and scary stuff. But that's what happened, and my mother burned it, and it would never burn. So it's buried in the backyard of my old house.
That's crazy.
I just remembered that story.
Wow. Well,
it didn't even dawn on me the whole time I was working on the report that, holy shit, I have.
You have a Ouija
I had
story.
a real one.
Well, there we go. Our very own Jamie has had a crazy experience with a Ouija board. So don't go play with a Ouija board, or else your house might catch on fire with green fire.
It is pretty. It's pretty magical, really. It was. I mean, you just
made it sound like it came out of a fairy tale. It's not magical. It's fucking crazy.
When you're like 9 years old and you just see this green, misty fire substance, it totally changes the way you think about anything. It's total otherworldly and indescribable. Even putting it to words did not make any sense to me, because it's just, you had to be there to know.
I believe you.
It was magical. It was very odd.
It's magical.
And it was very, it wasn't negative. My mother made it negative. Like, it was very fascinating to me and to my sister. We were very excited about it, but my mom was very upset and nervous.
I bet she was.
And that's where all the negativity came from.
I'm sure you've heard all the stories of demonic possession resulting after a Ouija board.
Not back then. The only thing I knew of was the movie Witchboard.
I've never
which
seen
was
that.
Pretty scary. But, she was trying to contact, I believe, the spirit of her dead son.
Oh.
So it was a happy thing. She wanted to speak to someone that she loved. And I think a lot of the Ouija board and the afterlife investigations are inspired by people who are hurting and mourning the loss of a loved one and wanting to connect with them again.
I absolutely believe that. I just also believe that, should there be demons that are trying to get through this board, that they're absolutely going to pretend to be your dead aunt or whoever that you're trying to talk to.
Almost all the cases that I've ever read of, spirit board hauntings are all demonic.
Yeah. So,
it's pretty creepy.
Another thing I just want to throw in after the Ouija board, because it's kind of similar, but there's not really enough information for it to have its own category. But it also deals with spirits moving your hand, and that would be spirit writing. It's not very common. There are a few mediums that use it, but basically how it works is they use their non-dominant hand and just continue writing without looking necessarily, and I guess you write for about 30 minutes. I don't know if I could do that for 30 minutes, but whatever. And sometimes you look down and there are words on the paper. The first time I'd ever heard about it was on Unsolved Mysteries, and it's just stuck with me ever since then.
It's pretty cool. I've actually tried it, and
I've tried it too, and
no
I never
luck,
get anything.
It just looks like scribbles.
Yeah. Maybe ghosts just have really terrible handwriting.
I've been told I have really terrible handwriting. So.
Maybe ghosts are writing through you all the time. Aw. Well, maybe the ghosts are guiding you in your other work. I don't know if you guys know this, but Jamie is a professional photographer. And that brings us to our next topic, spirit photography.
Spirit photography.
Maybe they're guiding you to take some pictures of some ghosts.
I've tried to take pictures of ghosts back in my early days of going out and trying to catch spirits and stuff. Because, I had a lot of stories. I had a lot of experiences that happened and no one believed me. And I set out on a quest to try to prove some of this stuff because I felt like an idiot. I felt crazy and people made me feel crazy. So I wanted to prove it. And I have yet to capture anything. It's so weird. It's like they know you're trying to catch them, so they avoid it. But I have seen some pretty odd things. In 1860, William Mumler stumbled upon the technique of spirit photography by accident when he took a photo of himself and saw a second image in the picture that was actually caused by the film being double exposed, which I could do that and nobody would know.
Let's do that.
Then people would know I wasn't crazy because I could just doctor the photos myself and.
Unless they're listening to our podcast and then they know that you're doctoring photos. Come visit Jamie for your double exposed spirit photography.
If you need spirit photography, come to me. I got all the answers.
I'll be the double exposure. So if you get a picture with the spirit of a chubby white girl, then you know.
Oh no. And Mimler and Mimler, seeing this double exposed, it's just I have this picture of you in my head and like these family portraits with like a ghost image of Samantha in the back. Mimler capitalized on this find and began working as a medium doctoring photos to include images of deceased loved ones. Spiritualists took to this phenomenon, claiming that spirit photography operated by means of a fluid substance called ectoplasm, in which spirits took form. And I know you're really super interested in ectoplasm.
Yeah, because people have done tests on ectoplasm, and it's come back as either DNA from no one involved or some substance that can't be traced back to anything. And those are obviously two separate occasions, but...
in our last podcast, we talked about the exorcism of Gary, Indiana, the demon house.
Yeah.
And they actually found ectoplasm coming down the walls. And
that's right.
The officers, they kept cleaning it off because they couldn't explain where it was coming from. It was like a weird oily substance. And they ended up cleaning it over and over, and it kept coming back, and it aggravated them. So they cleaned it again, boarded up the room so no one can get in, and 30 minutes later went back in, and it was covered all over the walls again and on the blinds. And they had it sent in for research, and it came back as inconclusive. Nothing that they, either the evidence just wasn't there, or there was nothing on our planet that we know of that it related to.
Right. And that's something that comes up in a lot of in paranormal investigations. There are a ton of things that science tests that just come back as totally inconclusive. Like Morgellons disease. They never have figured out what those fibers are, but they're not coming from the human body. I mean, they are, but they're not supposed to be. Also, alien implants, a lot of those come back as completely inconclusive. But I love the idea of ectoplasm. When you think of just like creepy Victorian seances, that's what I think of. I think of, the medium with ectoplasm coming out of her mouth and just forming into whatever else.
I always thought it was weird in like the spirit photographs of the seances with the ectoplasm coming out. It always looks like a doily cloth to me.
Not always.
There was some weird ones that look like some kind of fungus or something.
Yeah, a lot
of those
of
are kind of creepy.
The ones that, there are some that look like just cotton balls sort of coming out of the mouth. But there are also some that, just flat out look gelatinous. And that is just completely out of this world to me. So I just love the idea of it. I would love to go to a medium and see ectoplasm. Unfortunately, the only time I've been to a psychic, she told me I needed to go to therapy. So that's a story for another time.
Wow. I've only been to one psychic, and I was with my mother, and I was in kindergarten actually, and it was a very odd, negative experience for me. Oddly enough, it was at the elementary school I was attending, and she was the librarian, but she also had a nighttime job as being a psychic. She's a very interesting lady, very beautiful, and I just always remember her just being really just very pretty and like very natural. And she was dressed like a gypsy, which I was totally into because my family, you know, the heritage being Romanian. We went up to her, obviously, and we all had our palms read. Well, I was the last one to have my palm read because I was really excited and I wanted to wait till last. And she looked at my hand and she started freaking out. And my mother got real upset because she wouldn't talk to me, she wouldn't do it, and I was really excited about it. And my mom demanded that she, you know, tell us what is wrong. Why are you not telling us? And the lady grabs my hand and practically puts it in my mother's face. She was not very nice about it. Like her whole demeanor completely changed. She's very aggravated with me, very upset with me. But she pointed out the star that's on my hand to my mom. The lines in my hand are shaped like a star.
They are. I'm looking at them right now.
And which I always like to trace it because it does look like a star. But apparently I am from the devil. So that's what she told my mom. And ever since then, I've never been back to a psychic because apparently I am of demonic origin.
Interesting. Well, according to a psychic, I'm supposed to be dead now, so...
Look where we are now.
Yeah. Look where we are
Look where
now.
We are. Screw you guys.
Oh, goodness. Anyway.
You can edit that part.
No, it's cool.
I was totally trying to do a Cartman there, but it didn't even sound like Cartman.
Now, we're going to venture into modern paranormal research, which I'm sure you guys are pretty aware of with shows like Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters. So let's delve a little bit deeper into the science behind that.
Yeah, so leaving behind the primitive methods of paranormal investigation, we embark on the modern techniques and sciences of today's standards. There have been many numerous advances in the field of paranormal research in the last 2 decades alone. This increase in acceptance and popularity is largely credited to the numerous reality television shows on the subject, which you just mentioned.
Yep, sorry about that.
No, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned them, because I never actually pointed them out. I was just vague. Whether or not you question the beliefs and the evidence of the shows or see them as simple entertainment, you cannot deny that the popularity has advanced the paranormal interest to the public, which has enabled researchers more access to data, clients, and scientific inventions to help prove or disprove the afterlife. EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, are commonly found in recordings with static or stray radio transmissions. These sounds are found on electronic recordings resembling speech and are often produced by increasing the gain or the sensitivity levels. In an interview with Scientific American, Thomas Edison commented that a sensitive recording device would provide a better chance of spirit communication than earlier practices that use mediums and psychics. Which I have another interesting story about, I guess, white noise.
Jamie's got all the stories tonight. Let's hear it.
This is another one that happened when I was a kid. My uncle, he's passed away now, but he was quite the goofball, but he really liked to scare us when we were kids. And he told us the story one time that if you set up a video camcorder and set your TV to a empty channel, that's, back when we were kids, we didn't have cable, and after midnight, all the channels just went to fuzzy.
Right.
Fuzzy snow. But he told us if you record that, you will see spirits. Spirits will come out of the white noise and talk to you. Well, of course, me and my sister, who were trying to prove that all this stuff was real to our friends and stuff that didn't believe us, we actually did this. And we set up a recorder, and we did it for, I don't know, we were really excited about it and did it for like 3 weeks in a row, and nothing happened. And then some time passed, we got tired with it, and then one day me and her experienced something again, and it brought the interest back. And so we tried it again one more time, and you can clearly see, I wish I still had the tape because it was really disturbing. You could see the face of a woman, and it was so clear you could make out that it was a woman. You could see her eyes, you could see her nose, and it looked almost as if she was coming out of the white noise. Like, it looked very three-dimensional. And, the whole time, all you hear is, like, the static of the television. And during the 5 seconds that she popped out, you could actually hear screaming. And then it just went back to the snow. It was real fast, but it was very unsettling. Showed my uncle, showed my mother. The video traveled through, like, my whole circle of family and friends, and everyone who saw it was, like, absolutely in disbelief about it. So it was pretty scary.
That is really scary. Goodness, there's a movie with the same premise, well, not the same premise, like the lady screaming or whatever, but the movie White Noise is about white noise and being able to communicate spirits through the white noise.
Is it a television screen?
I believe so.
Because I think that's also how Poltergeist, I don't know, I remember the little girl putting her hand on the screen with the white noise and saying, "They're here."
Right. That movie always creeped me out as a kid, so I don't know that I've actually ever seen Poltergeist all the way through.
I remember it being pretty scary, but the real life events following that movie are scarier. Like the little girl, she passed away.
That's right. It is pretty
tragic.
Yes, that's extremely tragic. EVPs are very prominent in the ghost hunting shows that most of our listeners are probably going to be familiar with. On Ghost Adventures, they capture an EVP, it seems like, every episode. On Ghost Hunters, they capture EVPs fairly often. A lot of times they're harder to make out. And I don't know that I actually believe that all of them are actual EVPs, but some of them are extremely clear. And
some are pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
I've heard some that just give you chills.
The ones that specifically respond to questions, those just blow my mind.
Mm-hmm. There's
just no other way to see that as being communication from the spirit world, in my opinion.
I agree, 100%. It's just so...
I have to tell you, when I'm editing these episodes, I'm always so scared that I'm going to catch something and then be too scared to, like, go back and edit it. You know what I mean? But so far, so good. No EVPs yet.
You're going to listen later and it's going to be a demon growling at you. You're going to freak out.
I am going to flip out. It's fine.
What was that? That was a growl.
This is another thing we want to touch on. If you guys have any evidence that you want to send in to us and have us feature on the show or on our website, please let us know, especially EVPs. Obviously, because it's an audio podcast, we would love to share EVPs. I would just love to hear your EVPs and pee my pants from being so scared. Another way that people measure ghost activity, I guess, is with EMF readers. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes, electromagnetic fields, also known as EM fields or EMFs, are one of the 4 fundamentals of nature that extends indefinitely through space. Describing electromagnetic interaction produced by electrically charged objects. Almost everything in nature, both alive and inanimate, emit electromagnetic fields. And so it is theorized that spirits too give off an electromagnetic field that can be detected using an EMF meter.
I believe that. If when people get in your personal space, even if you can't see it, when you're a kid and your siblings are like, they keep their hand like right next to your face, even if you don't see it, you can feel it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's creepy. I'm sorry. It probably looked like I was going to slap you. But But it's creepy, and I definitely believe that has something to do with that. Something else that could be related to it that has actually been photographed as well. What some religions refer to as an aura. I personally believe that to also be your own personal magnetic field.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the magnetic fields that are emitted in your everyday life can also make you feel eerie. If you live in a house that has faulty wiring, that'll give off an EMF field that can give you nausea, almost, mess with you completely physically.
Or it can cause, like, mental instabilities, too.
Mm-hmm.
Freakouts and such.
And mood swings. Anxiety. So, not only does it make you feel creepy, but there's a lot of research that points to spirits giving off electromagnetic fields. A lot of times in the ghost hunting shows, you'll see them measuring electromagnetic fields, and they often do it in conjunction with EVPs. Mm-hmm. They'll set up and record asking several questions, and then when the EMF reader goes off, that's usually when they get a hit.
I think the measure for spirit activity is between 6 and 10 on the EM meter.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
They say anything above 10 is something like faulty wiring, or some kind of electronic device, but and anything under 6 is could be all sorts of different things.
Just like organic.
Just organic stuff. But between the range of 6 to 10 is where they say spirit activity is measured.
I don't know where to go with that.
On to the next.
On to the next. So we're going to talk a little bit about spirit boxes, which not so prominent on Ghost Hunters. If you watch Ghost Adventures, though, they use the spirit box in almost every episode now.
I think we're going to have a spirit box.
We're looking into it, yes.
You can actually make them yourself.
Well, we don't want to give away all of our secrets here.
No. So, in 2002, Frank Sumption, who was an EVP enthusiast, received instructions from the dead. Instructions from the dead.
I have a thing that I'm going to talk about in a minute about that. Go ahead.
So, very interesting. He received these instructions from the dead to create the spirit box, which enables real-time communication with those whom have passed. It sweeps back and forth across the AM band through devices. It sweeps back and forth across the AM band. The device uses a combination of a white noise generator and an AM radio receiver to pick out snippets of sound thought to be communications with spirits.
That's right. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's a radio. Obviously, it's going to pick up some sort of frequency, but it goes so quickly that it's almost impossible to pick up an entire word, much less a phrase.
A lot of it, too, sweeps multiple bands, and it's the same voice that comes over, like, 9 different channels, which is scary.
It is scary. And back to Frank Sumption, how he got the instructions from the dead. I know a lot of people haven't actually read the book because the movie is more prominent, but What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson actually wrote this book based on his research into spiritualism. The only part of the book that didn't come from his research were the characters. But he actually wrote in the book that scientists on the other side would send instructions to earthbound scientists or just individuals to make these machines that would greater benefit humanity. So whenever I read about that, that's just instantly what it brought forth to me, because that is a huge part of the spiritualism beliefs, that the spirits are trying to better our lives here in this realm by communicating from theirs, and they often try to better our lives, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, help the people who are suffering from, mourning those whom have passed that they loved, helping them to get over it and to overcome the terrible time in their life of losing a loved one.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That connection, the communication between them and the dead through the spirit box will really, help these people who could be, suicidal or just completely mixed up and messed up because of losing someone that they were so close to.
Right. And that's actually the basic premise of What Dreams May Come.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic movie and book.
Yep.
I definitely recommend the book to anyone because it's not a quick read, but it's a read that will change how you look at the afterlife completely. So with the spirit box, like Jamie pointed out, we are thinking about either making one or purchasing one. So let us know if you would like to know a little bit more about that. We might even blog about us making one. Who knows? Mm-hmm. We might post some steps. And if it actually works, we will definitely be talking about it.
Another thing about the spirit box, skeptics say that you're going to pick up voices that sweep across the AM band, of course. But there are many instances recorded of where people will go into the deepest, darkest tunnels, void of any kind of radio waves. Mm-hmm. There's no possible way that radio waves can emit down there. In fact, the white noise or the static in the radio sounds completely different because it's completely vacant of any kind of radio wave. But they still pick up these voices. And some of it's in chambers. There was a Ghost Adventures show, actually, that reminds me. They were in this tunnel, and within this tunnel there was a dungeon or a chamber or something that was completely closed off. They were using their walkie-talkies, and you couldn't hear anything. They couldn't communicate. Their equipment wasn't working because it was just so far underground. And they're using the spirit box, and through the spirit box came a very intelligent response to a question they asked. And it was the same voice over multiple spans of radio frequency. And not only did it just do it once, it did it over and over, and it was the same voice each time.
I think I've seen that episode.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, I feel like that's happened a couple times in their episodes.
Spirit box is cool.
It is cool. I think it's a remarkable piece of technology. We hope to own one in the near future. Something else we hope to own in the near future is a thermal imaging camera. Although that won't be in the very near future. It'll be more in the distant near future because they are extremely expensive. But that brings us to our next topic, which is modern photography. Modern photography, the technology has just advanced so much that it actually presents a few problems. The inventions of digital photography as well as digital editing software have enabled hoaxers to make extremely realistic spirit photography. But along with these inventions, there have also been a couple of other inventions that make ghost hunting a little bit easier, one of which being the thermal imaging software and cameras that I spoke of. Those pick up changes in
heat
signatures. Yes. The thermal imaging cameras pick up heat signatures, and a lot of times in the evidence I've seen brought forth from these, you'll see heat signatures of humanoid figures that aren't there in real life, but are being picked up on the camera, which is, one, pretty intense. I would probably pee my pants if that happened to me, but I'm totally open to it. I mean, if I had a thermal imaging camera, I would use it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to hoax with a thermal imaging camera. It does pick up heat signatures from mirrors and that sort of thing and windows, but in open air spaces, there's just no way to hoax a heat signature other than just a human body being there. Another piece of technology that is greatly advanced paranormal research in the modern era would be infrared photography, also known as night vision. It was first developed for the military, and now it has become a fairly cheap technology that just everyday people can buy. And it allows you to see things at night, which we all know is when the crazy stuff happens.
Witching hour.
Exactly. And a lot of the evidence brought forth in Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and other shows of the like is always at night. They always do their investigations at night.
Which, without the use of the infrared night vision, we wouldn't even be able to see them because they are in complete darkness.
It's pretty much impossible. But they've caught some pretty compelling evidence. The guys from Ghost Adventures became famous because of their first documentary in which they caught a couple of bricks, I believe.
Bricks and some 2x4s.
Yeah.
Levitating.
Just levitating and flying through the air. And that was on, just every talk show you could think of. And all of a sudden these guys have their show thanks to that. And they've caught some pretty compelling evidence. I know there are people out there that don't exactly love the guys from Ghost Adventures or even the guys from Ghost Hunters, but both sets have caught compelling evidence that I at least think deserves some respect.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. We, Jamie and I hope to do some ghost hunting for ourselves. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. We would be interested in at least having maybe a video blog or something.
Which would be a good time to bring up Waverly Hills.
Yes, we are looking into booking a night at Waverly Hills. So if you guys would be interested in going with us to Waverly Hills and helping us investigate, also please let us know. The cost is pretty low. You can message us about it and we'll be glad to let you know about that. And we would be breaking up into groups. And we have a little bit of equipment that we would be able to use with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of it would be for the sheer personal experience.
Exactly.
If you've never been on a ghost hunt, it is very intense. The adrenaline is like no other.
Right.
It's right up there with jumping out of an airplane with a parachute.
I've never done that, but that sounds terrifying.
I've never done it either, but I can only imagine.
Right. I have been to Waverly, and I can tell you that it is pretty terrifying. I only went on a guided tour, and I was still pretty scared. So I can only imagine having a free roam experience, which you can have, and we can have.
We can share together the experience of Waverly.
Yes, we can share the experience of Waverly. We need at least 20 people to go, so let us know if you're interested, because we would like to go to Waverly with you.
Definitely. We're going to try not to say definitely this time.
So, another thing that I was going to bring up, and I still haven't, so I'm going to throw it in now. So the modern use of photography in paranormal research brings me back to the skull experiment, which was set up in a seance setting. The group involved with the experiment were sealed into a room, and they did an experiment with some Kodak film, I believe, just the rolls that some of our listeners might be too young to remember, but I'm not. I remember them. They had the Kodak film in the little tins that it came in at the time, and it was completely sealed. It had never been taken out. They sat the film in the middle of the seance table and basically just asked the spirits to make an impression on the film.
I remember that story.
Yeah, we'll post some of the pictures that came out of it. There are clear faces on this film. It's been tested by several scientists, and it's never been proven to be a hoax. I don't believe it to be a hoax because there were several scientists involved in this experiment. So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I believe during this experiment was also when flowers fell onto the table that weren't even from the area. So that's also another pretty unnerving aspect to that experiment. But definitely check that out because it's worth looking into. If you're interested in hearing more about the skull experiment, I could talk for days about it. But we didn't have enough time to throw it all in here. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
But we should save that for just an entire conversation.
Right. I think it deserves its own episode. If you think it deserves its own episode, let us know.
So, in closing, in 2009, CBS conducted a survey that revealed 78% of Americans believe in life after death, with 50% of those questioned believing in ghosts and the paranormal. Thousands upon thousands of reported hauntings surface daily, so one can't help but question the finality of one existence into the next. If you have a story to tell, we would love to hear it. You can message us at Chronicles of the Arcane, all one word, at outlook.com, or find us on Facebook at Chronicles of the Arcane.
Yeah, we are on there almost daily posting articles that we find in our research and just articles that we find interesting. We would also love for you to post anything that you find interesting. We just want to get in touch with you guys, interact with you guys.
Yeah, share your stories. We'd love to hear some
Absolutely.
of your stories, and possibly you could be on our next show.
Exactly. We have a poll up right now. Well, I don't know if it would be up right now whenever this airs.
I don't know.
What was our next episode? Our next episode is going to be an interview with Megan Hagen of Owensboro. She is a tarot reader. We'll also talk a little bit about the occult and maybe a little bit more about mediums. So check that out. And also, if you are interested in having a reading by Megan, please get in touch with us. We'll get you in touch with her, or you can search her on Facebook. I don't know how easy it'll be to find her, but I can get you in touch with her. I want to too. So, and actually, I am going to have a reading done for a video blog. So I will be posting that. If Jamie gets one done, she'll be posting that, and you'll get to know about our future, maybe.
Oh, that's kind of scary. Considering I'm from the devil.
You're from the devil. I don't think May would tell you that you're from the devil.
Does she read palms?
I don't think so. I think she just does tarot.
I wonder what her thoughts would be on the star.
We should ask her.
If she has any insight, because I've always wondered about it. I've tried to look stuff up and I can't find anything about it.
I think your teacher was just full of BS.
Maybe she was flaky.
Whatever.
Screw her.
And that has been our second episode of Chronicles of the Arcane. Check us out next week, and keep in touch. Stay fly.
Goodbye.